Hello, Eddie Hutchins, Technical Solutions Architect for Cisco Systems. I wanted to make a follow-up video to the one that I have already produced showing you how to use the SecureX browser plugin to pull in indicators of compromise from a Talos blog. What we'll be doing today is using the SecureX Orchestration module to do this more autonomously. And you may be thinking, I don't really understand how to do orchestration. I'm not a coder. Well, the great thing is Cisco has already done the vast majority of the hard work for you. You can import a workflow from one of our many different Git repositories. In this case, today we'll be working with flows that are coming from the Cisco Security Workflow Git. The file name, you can see there's multiple different workflows that have been uploaded here and have been shared. The ones that we'll be looking at are actually these first two, the Talos Get New Blog Posts and the single blog post casebook as well. Pick that, Git version. The top one is the newest. That's what I'd recommend going with. And then you hit import. It'll pull it into SecureX Orchestration and you'll be able to get started. Let's go ahead and dive into what those workflows look like and what they do. The first we'll look at is the single blog post to SecureX casebook workflow. And essentially what's going to happen here at a very high level is the workflow will ask you for the URL of the blog post that you want to go to. It'll make sure that it can actually grab that it's not getting an error, some other type of web issue. Then it's going to ingest any indicators of compromise or observables, start to render verdicts upon those. Once all that's done, it'll drop them all into a casebook for you to take action on. From there, you can pivot into threat response and potentially block things from there if they happen to be in your environment. The next workflow that we're going to take a look at is even more autonomous. That single blog post workflow required us to input a URL. This one, the Get New Blog Posts workflow, actually just works on a timer, if you will. So I've got a trigger set up. And in my case, I've set it up to run daily. This is something that you can specify weekdays, weekends, other scheduling. In my case, I have it set to run 7 days a week, starting at 9 a.m. And then every 2 hours after that, it triggers again through my normal waking hours. And what ends up happening when this gets triggered is a lot of what we looked at in the previous workflow, in that we go out, we make sure it's a properly rendering web page, there aren't any errors, but there's some extra things that happen. So one thing is we want to see if this has been updated since the last time this workflow ran. And the reason why is we don't want duplicate data getting dumped into our casebook. So if it's not been updated, we skip the post. If it has been updated, we move on to our next check, and this is going to look for keywords in that post. We'll look to see if it has the keyword roundup or spotlight post. And the reason why is those types of posts generally don't have indicators of compromise that I can take action on. Once we've done all that, if we pass, we move down into kicking off another workflow. And what ends up happening there is we take a look at the page, make sure it's clean. We can pull it in with no errors. We dump all that into a table. We take those observables and then we render verdict on them. We then go ahead and put them into a casebook, at which point we can take action. Let's take a look at what those look like now. All right, so at the bottom of this casebook screen, you can see the casebook that I built last time using that SecureX browser plugin. That's great, but this next one is the one that I used the single blog post workflow for. So I specified a URL. You can actually see it over here. It pulled all the observables down and we have all the verdicts here. We could then decide to kick off a threat response investigation and see if it's actually showing up in my network. The next four above that, though, are all going to be ones that are happening or being pulled in completely autonomously. They're done based off that work schedule that I set up. So we grab that same blog post that I had gotten the single serving byte of. That's actually just going to go out and be grabbed. And then I have a number of others that were in the history of the blog posts. So we went back a few days and we grabbed the Talos Takes episode 80, Beers with Talos episode 112, and then some new observables that got added to that log4j vulnerability post is just being continuously updated by Talos. So that just all ran without my intervention. If I want to, I can then kick off a threat response investigation right from the screen, go in and take a look at what's going on. So I hope you found this insightful and helpful. Just a few simple ways that you can use SecureX Orchestration to go out and gather indicators of compromise and bring them back into SecureX and then take action on them.